Okay, here is a compound interest question where you are given the amount or the present value of $300 is deposited into an account earning 7% interest compounded annually, meaning once per year, for 10 years. That's the duration that the $300 will be compounded for. So we're asked to compute the future value, okay, after 10 years. And round the answer, the future value, to the nearest tenth. Okay, so we will go about doing that. Now here on the right is how we would do it if we would use a formula. And that it shows us how the process is conducted. Meaning we start with $300. Let's say we deposit it into the bank. And the interest rate is 7% and we leave it for 10 years. So this is the formula that would be used. Now we could make it a little bit larger so it's easier to read. Right? So FV stands for future value and PV stands for present value. Present value in this case is $300. Now the interest rate, we do not put the 7%, but you have to put the decimal equivalent, which in this case would be 7 divided by 100 gives us 0.07. Now, n is the number of compoundings that will take place over the period of 10 years in this case. So it's occurring once, so therefore it would be as it's indicated here, the compounding is once per year, so 10 times 1 will be 10, which would be means 10 times it will be compounded. All right, good. So there we are. And let's proceed to do it. Now, if we were to use the normal method of the calculator, meaning doing it manually, we would insert these numbers, 300, and in parentheses, we put 1 plus 0.07, and then raise that number to the 10th power, multiply by 300, and we will get this number of 590.15. Now, we could demonstrate it with the calculator by bringing it up here. And I'll do the parentheses first. So I start the parentheses. I put 1 plus, and I put the 0.07. I close the parentheses. Now you see it's 1.07. It did the summation there. And then I use y to the x, which would give me the exponent of n. There we go. And then I can press equal. I get a number there for that part. But that number now has to be multiplied by 300. And that gives us the amount of 590.15. That is rounded to 2 decimal places because the digit after the 4 is a 5. So the 4 gets rounded up to a 5. So the answer would be 590.15. And that is how we would do it using the formula. But we have a calculator. And this is the calculator, the B82 Plus. Now, you don't have to get professional. You can actually download the app from the Play Store or the App Store, depending on what kind of phone you have, your smartphone. All right, but how does the calculator operate? Now, let's clear these numbers out of there. And that is the whole purpose of this demonstration, is to show you how the calculator works. Now let's make this a little bit larger. And these are the symbols you will see on your calculator. Well, you won't see why you see just above the IY there, but we can enter that menu because it's above the IY. The second function activates that menu. And in that menu, we'll see PY and CY. We will do that in a minute. And then we go to calculate, and the calculator can do that for us. IY, we enter that number, and present value, we also enter that. The payment, we also enter that number, which is 0 in this case. And the future value, we will actually do a computation. And that computation, as indicated on the calculator, we use the key that says CPT. Now we will see this appear, this red lettering, that this is not a decimal or integer value because we must enter a decimal or integer value for the answer. But I'm just indicating what we're calculating, which in this case is the future value. Okay, so let's start. How do we enter PY and CY? There is where we usually start. So like I said, PY, if you can see it, it's just above the IY. You can see it on your calculator when you download it, or if you have a physical one that you can buy. We go second, and we press on IY. So that activates PY. Now, 1 is in there. It's probably a default value. But if you're entering it, we press on 1, and then we must press enter. You see there's no equal sign there, but once you press enter, equal shows up. Now, automatically, when you enter a value for PY, the same value is recorded for CY. But you could always enter it again and click on 1, press on enter, and there we are. Now, this menu only has 2 components, PY and CY. All right, you will get used to that. If the compounding per year is CY and PY is payments per year. But in our case, for compound interest, payments per year and compounding per year are the same. So they're both 1 in this case. And if we use this arrow and come down, we cycle back to PY and we go back to CY. Now we must get out of this menu. And there are 2 ways of doing it. One is to click on second, CPT above there, you see quit. The other one is if I go back in with the second IY, I can quit by using the clear entry. And if I do it twice, then the number also disappears. So those are the 2 ways of getting out of a menu. All right, either second CPT or CE/C, little 5. Okay, so we have entered these numbers. So we can enter them here also, 1 and 1. Now N. Now N can be calculated using the calculator. We have the 10 years, all right? It shows us here that N is really 10 times 1 or 10 times the PY value, actually. But in this case, PY and CY are the same. So that is done. If you look above N, you will see it has multiplied by PY. So I will enter the number of years. In this case, it's 10 years, right? So I enter 10, not years. There's no alphabet letter entering. So we enter the value, the numerical value of 10. And if I click on second N, I see 10, but I must click on N once more. Remember, there's no N there and there's no equal sign. I click on N and there N appears and equal sign. What does this mean? When you see the equal sign, it means that number is indeed in that register, in that box, or in that receptacle, whichever way you like to describe it. But that is the numerical value for N. All right, we've accomplished that. So we will put in the number 10. Now, IY is, as you can see somewhere up here, it says IY is equal to 7, which is a 7% interest. So we go 7, and to enter the value, we just click on IY. So 7, IY, and there it says IY is equal to 7. Now the present value is next. So let's enter this in our answer box. And it does have the percent beside it there. Now the present value is 300. Now it shows negative or positive. I will explain that because that is a feature of the calculator. Let's put in a positive 300 for present value. That's what PV is, 300. And I click on PV, and there we see PV is equal to 300. All right, the next undertaking is the payment. PMT stands for payment, but there are no payments, meaning that we are not putting in $300 every year or every 6 months or 3 months or monthly. All right, we are just making the one deposit of $300 and leaving it there for 10 years at a rate of interest rate of 7%. So 0 goes in for payment. 0 PMC, and there we are. Now the future value is, as I told you, so we entered the 0 for payment, is a computed value. Just like we did over here, we did a computation to get the future value. So let's go here, and so we must click on CPT. That is what CPT is short for compute. And we click on the future value. You will see that negative value, and you will see the answer. The answer, let's say we disregard the negative value and put in 590.15, rounded to 2 decimal places. Okay, now if we go and look at the answer we got, yes, it was indeed the same answer using their formula. But as things get more complicated, you will find that the calculator is the instrument of use. Why? Because it's easier. It's already been programmed into the calculator, all these formulas, so it's very simple to do. Now, how do we use ideas? Well, we submit our question for marking. And when you see green check marks, it means that the question has been done correctly. And that brings us to the end. So now you know how to enter the values. And if you missed anything, I will just go over it quickly. PY, we go now. You don't have to clear anything. You can just go second IY. That gets us to the PY value. We click on 1. We click on enter. We go down. That moves us to CY. Right? We enter 1 likewise. Enter. And there we are. And then we can check. Go down. CY is right there. It's 1. CY is 1. And I could either click on second CPT or click clear twice. All right. The value for n, I go to the number of years, remember. So there we are, 10 years. So I go and I click on 10. And I click on second n, and it's multiplied by ty, which in this case was 1. So that is correct. The IY value, I enter it by clicking on the number 7 and click on IY. Present value, it's there, 300. So I click on 300. And I click on PV. The payment is 0, that I explained earlier, 0 for the payment. And then I compute the future value. And I missed telling you about this negative sign. These two signs will be opposing signs, meaning if present value is entered positive as it was, I can recall here. I click on recall, present value is positive. If I recall the future value, it is negative. Now, if I go back and I recall the present value, and I can make it negative by clicking on plus minus, and then clicking on present value, there it is, it's negative. And then if I compute the future value, there it is, it's positive. So these two signs are opposing by design of the calculator. We can do nothing about that, but we're getting the correct numerical value, which is indeed what we are after. So in this case, the answer is 590.15 for the future value. All right, because that is what we were asked to compute the future value after 10 years.